Hello, my name is Gergana Denichina, a certified life and business coach, mentor, coach in emotional intelligence, and certified Neurographica instructor. In this series of 4 videos, using the Neurographica method, we'll explore several topics related to awareness, exploring, declaring, and asserting our personal boundaries. The videos contain specific exercises that I recommend you complete in sequence. You can find the whole series on my Patreon account. The method we'll use is called Neurographica. It is an innovative psychological method created by the Russian psychology professor Pavel Piskaryov, with whom I personally studied. It is a unique creative method for transforming reality, for forming and transforming the unconscious and changing our impressions in a given context. You can learn more in the specialized courses. Please check my website, neurographicaonline.com. This is the third video in the series My Personal Boundaries. In this video, we'll explore the topic of assertive behavior and standing up for our personal boundaries. In case this is the first video in the series you are watching, I recommend you start at the first video and go in sequence. The exercises are linked, and at the beginning I explain what the Neurographica method is and some basic concepts. As I said, the topic of today's exercise is assertive behavior and asserting our personal boundaries. What does it mean to be assertive? It means clearly and firmly stating our boundaries, our feelings, and our desires, without offending others or violating their boundaries. Assertiveness is one of the basic communication skills. Its main characteristics are that we use the I in expression. We do not impose agreement at all costs between parties and seek to clarify viewpoints and positions. We will talk about these characteristics in more detail in a moment. Now, prepare your sheets, pencils and markers, and let's get started. In this third exercise, we'll draw the 10 assertive rules using the Neurographica method. We'll depict each of them in a circle. You intuitively determine the size and location of the circle within the sheet, and then you can analyze them yourself. As you draw, pay attention to yourself and write down, what do you feel? What you experience as bodily sensations? What thoughts go through your head during each step of the drawing process? Now, let's begin. First, draw a frame as in the previous exercises. And we begin with the first rule, and that is, I have the right to determine my own behavior, thoughts, and emotions, and to take responsibility for their consequences. The second rule is, I have the right not to name a reason or excuse to justify my behavior. Third rule, I have the right to decide whether I am responsible to find solutions for the problems of others. Rule 4. I have the right to change my mind. Fifth rule. I have the right to say I don't know. Rule 6. I have the right to make mistakes and take responsibility for them. Seventh, I have the right to be independent of the approval of others. Eighth rule, I have the right to be irrational in my decision making. Rule 9, I have the right to say I don't understand. And the 10th rule, I have the right to say I don't care. How do you feel now that you have stated your 10 rules? Your 10 rules of assertive communication and setting your boundaries. Try to feel what is happening in your body. What do you feel? Where do you feel it? Your emotions. Look at how your circles are positioned in relation to each other. Now bring them together into a single outline. And let these become your rules for communication. Please don't ignore any of them. It is the most difficult with those closest to us, the people who are just around us every day. Yes, it's hard to tell your boss, I don't care. But you don't have to state it exactly that way. There are many other ways in which you can declare practically exactly that, in case that's the case, and that you insist of declaring your no when someone crosses your boundaries. It's important that you identify where your particular boundaries are, what you are comfortable with, where you are allowing someone to be, when it is no and when it's yes. And now let's draw some neural lines running through the drawing and through our newly written rules. And as we round inside the drawing, we'll talk about these rules. And you remember all the while to observe as you round how you feel. Do you have any resistance that's rising up, or any bodily sensations like heat, chill, pain, cold, tingling, whatever? and write it down when it comes up, where it comes up, and what is the meaning of it. And while rounding, we'll talk again about the basic characteristics of the assertive mode of communication. What does it mean to use I in expression? I will illustrate it with an example. When we are annoyed by someone's behavior, the assertive mode requires us to say, I'm annoyed by this action of yours, or I feel annoyed by this action of yours, instead of you are annoying me. We use I, we don't blame the other person or point at them. When we say don't force agreement at all costs between parties, think about it. Does it happen to you, and how often does it happen to you? And with whom do you happen to say to yourself, well, come on, let's make it. Just let there be peace. I agree with everything. Or from the other side, you have to agree with me. I'm right about everything. In both cases, assertive communication is lacking. In the first case, it is passive. In the second, aggressive, authoritarian. We covered the different communication styles and the different parenting styles in more detail in our other courses and specialized programs. In assertive communication, we accept the other person's point of view. We accept that they may have a different opinion, which does not mean that we necessarily have to give up ours. In assertive communication, as in any other communication, the tone, the way we express ourselves matters a lot. What we say is important, but it represents only 7% of our communication. And 38% is the tone in which we say it, and 55% is the body language. What is the assertive no? The assertive no is simple and direct. For example, no thank you. The non-assertive no is followed by explanation and excuses. And think about it, and in the future observe how many times when you say no, it is followed by because and a series of explanations. What makes you give these explanations and excuses? Most of us are taught not to say no so as not to offend others, especially those close to us. And it's not easy to break out of this learned pattern. But with mindful observation and training, we can change it. And the reaction of the other party, of course, is also important to our subsequent behavior. People who are used to us backing down are unlikely to stop at our first no. They will demand, they will insist, they will get angry, they will manipulate us. They may punish us in some way, and that is why persistence in asserting is necessary. Some appropriate ways of saying no are, for example, let me think about it. Yeah, I need time to decide. Or let's talk about it another time. And it is very important that we ourselves accept that it is respectful and authentic to say no, and to be clearly understood, supporting saying no with a head nod or hand gesture. Remember, 55% of communication is body language. And if you say yes when you want to say no, you will feel it very clearly in your body if you observe yourself. And you can also notice a negative internal dialogue that we often tend to ignore and bypass. So turn to yourself, to your own feelings. The easiest way to say no is to say yes to yourself. How do you feel now? What do you feel? What are you thinking? When you are done with the rounding, we move on to the next stage, the coloring. Color by intuition. And in the meantime, we'll talk again about the 10 assertive rules we drew on our drawing. The first of them, I have the right to determine my own behavior, thoughts, and emotions, and to take responsibility for their consequences. The behavior of others may influence us, but we determine how we react to address each situation. Recall the incident we looked at in the second exercise and how, given the same incident and circumstances, we can choose different behaviors that lead to different end results. It is important to know that we can change our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Others can influence my decision, but the final choice Others can influence my decisions, but the final choice is mine. The second rule. I have the right not to name a reason or excuse to justify my behavior. There is no need to let others judge whether our actions are right or wrong. Others may express disagreement or disapproval, but I have the opportunity to ignore their preferences or find a compromise. I can choose to honor their preferences and change my behavior accordingly. The important thing here is that it is my choice. Others may try to manipulate my behavior and feelings by demanding to know my reasons and by trying to convince me that I'm wrong. But I know that only I can judge my own behavior. The third rule: I have the right to judge whether I am responsible to find solutions for others' problems. It is important to know that we are solely responsible for our own mental well-being and happiness. We may feel concern, compassion, and goodwill for others, but we are neither responsible nor do we have the ability to create mental stability and happiness for them. And sometimes our activities may indirectly cause problems for others, but it is solely and entirely their responsibility to learn to cope on their own. And the fourth rule, which is very valuable to me and helped me a lot, I came in my drawing to the field lines. These are the lines that give us extra energy. They are 2, 3, or 4. They start at one end of the sheet and end at the other. And what is the fourth rule? I have the right to change my mind. Nothing in my life has to be permanent and forever. My interests and needs can change over time, and that is perfectly normal, healthy, and beneficial for me. Others may try to manipulate my choices by forcing me to admit my mistakes and by claiming I'm responsible or irresponsible, but I don't need to justify my decisions. Rule 5. I have the right to say I don't know. Rule 6. I have the right to make mistakes and take responsibility for them. Mistakes are part of life. The only one who does not make mistakes is the one who does nothing. Every decision is the right the moment it's made. Others may try to manipulate us into believing that our mistakes are unforgivable and that we should retaliate for them with certain kinds of behavior. But if we allow this, our future behavior will be influenced by our past mistakes, and our judgment will be controlled by others. Rule 7. I have the right to be independent of the approval of others. There is no way that everyone can approve us and expect our every action to be approved by others. And it is important to know that we are responsible for ourselves and can handle periodic disapproval from others. Rule 8. I have the right to be illogical in my decision making. Rule 9. I have the right to say, I don't understand. And 10. I have the right to say, I don't care. And finally, let's say our clear and empathic yes to ourselves. Write it at the top of your sheet and come back to it every day and practice upholding your assertive boundaries every day. I wish you success in your new path. Thank you for being with me. I am Gergana Denichina, your Neurographica coach and instructor.